Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about In a Lonely Place, 1950s noir film starring Humphry Bogart as Dixon Steele and Gloria Graham as Laurel Gray, and it's directed by Nicholas Ray. I'm joined here with Tanner Methvin.
Hey everyone, I'm Tanner, and I love this movie. Is that a good intro for my character? I don't have any personal things to plug right now.
That's a great intro.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because we're here to talk about this movie. So.
We are, yeah.
All right, so I had asked you to come up with a list of 10 movies that you wanted to talk about in the coming podcast, and this was on the list.
Mm-hmm. Of the 20, I think I sent you in response.
Yeah, you sent me a little more than 10.
With the caption that I have like 100 I could do. But yeah, sorry, this is the one of the ones I sent you, and this was the one you picked, which I think is a good way to start, quite frankly, because it's an old movie, and I assume what you're about to ask me is why I like it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. And like basically all of the movies I sent you, I could say this about all of them, which is there's so many great things. There's this, and this. But in this particular case, it boils down to one thing that just sets it above everything else, and that is Humphry Bogart. I'm a big Bogart fan, and I think this is his best performance by a wide margin, to be honest. Like, I like him a lot. When he's in a movie, I'm like, fuck, yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, this is my favorite performance of his by far.
That's good. So... Yeah. I first saw this movie about a year ago when you recommended it to me on the Criterion channel, which I'd assume was after you'd seen it pretty recently.
Yeah, I hadn't actually seen it. It took me a while to see it, and I finally saw it. And that was another thing, too. I'm like, because we talk about Casablanca and Maltese Falcon, or even like African Queen, these classic Humphrey Bogart movies. And I'm like, why do we not talk about this one? This is the one, in my opinion.
As far as performance goes for him, I think absolutely.
Right. Like Maltese Falcon, I mean, I still love that movie, and I get it, because some people consider that the first noir.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like the star-making role for him.
I was going to say Maltese Falcon is like the start of his star persona, whereas I feel like this one is like the culmination of everything that he'd been doing prior to this.
So it's funny, I was doing a little research about just Humphrey Bogart's career. And so he was, first of all, when he was on Broadway, he was not playing the tough guy. He was very young, and he was actually playing like the posh upper class, like, oh, fancy boy, oh, like that's my impression of the type. I don't know if he sounded like that, but that was the type of character he was
probably
playing.
A better accent, but yeah, maybe. I get the idea.
If you've seen Animal House, like he would be the guys in the douchey like upper class frat. That was the kind of character he was playing, and he hated it. Like he publicly said, like, I hated playing those kinds of people because he hated those people in real life. At least that's what he said, which I think is just so cool.
I can see why he got typecast as that as a young man, because he's like 5'8" and he's like maybe 100 pounds. Like he's a little guy.
Exactly, which is I know the heavy is just a word for the villain, but when you look at him, it's like that's not the heavy. Like the heavy's supposed to be like a big motherfucker. Yeah. When you hear that word, at least. But that's the thing. So then he started playing the heavy in a lot of movies. In particular was one called The Petrified Forest, which is a really good movie where they did not want him for the part. It was based on a play that he and another guy was in. I'm sorry, I forget the name of that other guy who was the lead. And
didn't have a good career as Humphrey, I guess.
I guess not, but I think he did have a good career. And then Humphrey, though, so he didn't get the part. He told that guy about it, and that guy basically told, I think, Warner Brothers, who made it, like, either Humphrey does this or I'm not doing it. Like, Humphrey has to do this part.
Oh, so he was the bigger star at the time.
Yeah. And I think they were, like, friends for life after that, basically, because he made Humphrey Bogart's career. Anyway,
that's cool.
Maltese Falcon comes up, and every single part, like, that Humphrey Bogart gets before Casablanca was because he was denied, George Raft, the actor who would basically play that part, always denied the role. Maltese Falcon, in particular, he denied it because it was a remake, and he didn't want to do a remake, which nothing's changed, by the way, about Hollywood. Like, even then, people were sick of remakes. They were like, are we fucking really doing this again? Which, if you didn't know Maltese Falcon, that was the third time they had adapted that story. But yeah, so if you couldn't tell, Humphrey Bogart is my favorite thing about this movie, but that's not to say everything else isn't great, because God, he's surrounded by other great people and a great director, great cinematographers.
Yeah.
You have some slides here for us to reference, which is, sorry, podcast listeners, you will not see them, but like this movie looks great.
Yes, it does. It's very beautiful black and white photography.
Yeah, because he's with Gloria Graham, who also had a very interesting career. She unfortunately has a very sad later life. At this point, before the movie starts production, she is married to the director Nicholas Ray, and then I believe they separated during the production of the movie.
Yeah, and they had a contract that she had to sign, right?
Yeah, a contract that was really like, hey, at all times you must respect that Nicholas Ray, your husband and the director, is always right in regards to matters of this movie. Yeah, and it was just a really bizarrely, like, I'm kind of exaggerating, but not really. Like, it was that
I
level
think it was
of
something,
control.
yeah, basically like between the hours of like 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. You have to do exactly what I say. Kind of, it was like when we're at work, you have to do exactly everything I say.
It was really bizarre, but she gives an amazing performance in this movie. And as we'll talk about later, like, this movie basically starts on him and then becomes her story.
Yeah, which is a fascinating twist when that happens. So you want to go ahead and just jump into the movie, kind of work our way through it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for the listener, should we just do like a very basic plot synopsis? We'll go into detail, but like...
Yeah, we should. Should we read a professional one or just make it up?
Well, we've got a DVD box, actually. This is too long to read.
Is it really?
It's a paragraph. You know what? Okay, here's...
Well, I got the IMDb logline if you want to do that.
Yes, please.
A potentially violent screenwriter is a murder suspect until his lovely neighbor clears him. However, she soon starts to have her doubts.
That's actually a very good and concise description. That's exactly what happens. He is suspected of murder. His neighbor, who he's never actually spoken to in his life, gives him an alibi. But then as the movie goes on, she starts to be like... I think
the one thing it doesn't hit on is the level of romance that's in this movie.
True, they fall in love. It should be noted. They do start a romantic relationship, but she starts to suspect him, as does the audience, and that's one of the things that when you first saw this, after I sent you that text, like, watch this now, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's my exact words. That's how we text each other. I think that was the first thing we actually talked about, was how well they keep it up in the air, especially for a movie of the time. I think a lot of movies do this now, but for a movie from 1950 to have the audience question, like, is America's leading man Humphrey Bogart a killer?
Apparently that was an editing choice too, not a script choice.
Oh, really?
Apparently there are 3 shots. I was doing some research on this. There's one where we actually see the neighbor see Humphrey Bogart after the girl has left.
Oh.
And then there's a shot where we see the actual murderer on the street when he walks her out to the street. There's a shot of the husband out there.
Oh, thank God
they cut that shot.
Yeah, and that would have given everything away.
Oh, this ruins the movie.
Yeah. So I mean, spoiler alert. Like, this is a full spoiler podcast, but he didn't do it. Let's just get that out of the way. Humphrey Bogart's in the clear, but. And we'll talk about more at the end why that works. But that would just screw everything up if it's so clear that he didn't do it, because also, like you said, it shows a shot of her seeing him.
Yeah.
When we actually get her testimony, she is describing a scene that we haven't seen. She says, "Oh, I saw him do this at this time."
Yeah.
And so
which might have been a scene that they shot.
Yeah, which makes sense.
They correctly took out of the movie.
Yeah, because it's a bit odd because we see what she's talking about, but we don't see her seeing that.
Yeah.
And so you're like, wait, is she just covering for him just cuz? Or does she care?
We'll talk more about it when we get to the scene. I want to start...
You're right, at the beginning?
I want to start at the beginning because I absolutely love the way that they introduce Humphrey Bogart's character.
This is an intro. This is how you introduce a character.
And the movie. Like, we pull up on this street and we see Humphrey Bogart in his car, and then a couple come up next to him. And I think the lady's supposed to be an actress. She talks about being in one of his movies that he wrote before.
Yeah, which I love the line he gives in response where he's like, "I don't see anything I wrote," which is super relatable to any creative person. It's like, I don't look at what I did, okay? Like,
it's also, I think, a reflection of how he sees himself, which is like not a big screenwriter. Like, he's kind of getting by.
And again, like, it's hard to separate Bogart the character from Bogart the actor, but supposedly he was very much like that in real life. He was like, I don't give a shit about all this.
Okay.
Like these, I guess he was very outspoken about how much, if he thought your movie was shit, he would tell you. Is from what I understand, that is like something that people did not like about him in Hollywood. That he was like, no, this is a piece of shit that you made.
Yeah.
And you are untalented. And like, he would just do that to their face. And he's like, yeah, I guess I'm not a popular guy.
Nice. I wanted to be like working with him because he produced this movie.
Did he?
His production company started from like hired the person to write the original script. Like he was on before Nick Ray was on.
Which we should mention, by the way, this was based on a book.
Yes.
This was, but drastically changed for the movie. Almost unrecognizable, I would dare say.
I think once we finish, like, kind of going through the movie, we'll go through, like, what the book was.
Yeah. But yeah, so people know it was based on a book, but don't worry about, like, well, is it better than the book? It is so different.
Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of jabs at the book, which I'll get into when we get to those sections. Mm-hmm. But to keep going with this intro, after that, the husband gets mad at his wife for talking to Humphrey, it seems like. Is that the only issue?
Something. He just this guy is not to do the cliche like what are you compensating for, but he jumped in for like nothing. He really like did not need to jump in. Humphrey Bogart and the wife weren't doing anything.
Yeah, I think it's like playing more into like he's scared of Humphrey Bogart's sex appeal, which they lay on in this movie, which they lay on in all of Humphrey Bogart movies. So I guess maybe he's like super sexy for the time.
Or now,
yeah.
I call him.
He's a fucking beautiful man.
I call him my movie husband when I see him in movies. I'm like, there he is.
So he gets really jealous and basically wants to start a fight. And he's like, pull over to the curve. And Humphrey Bogart's reaction is very much like,
what's wrong with right here?
Yeah.
I love that he not only that, he opens the car door. He
gets out of the car, and the dude I think runs a red light to get away from him.
Yeah,
or the light turns green when he gets out. I couldn't tell, but
what a bitch! Like that dude is just such. Oh man, like your wife cannot feel very attracted to you after that.
Yeah,
you like started some shit and then immediately ran away. Absolutely not. No sex is being had in the next 48 hours at least.
Oh yeah, well I don't know. It's 1950. Who knows?
That's true. 72.
But what I like about this intro scene from like a screenwriting perspective is how efficient it is at telling us almost everything we need to know about Humphrey Bogart. He's a writer. He doesn't think his stuff's that good, so he's not like super confident, but he's very aggressive and he's willing to hurt himself or hurt others for no apparent reason.
Yeah, he is.
He doesn't take shit from people.
He really doesn't. And again, we won't go into it yet, but he is very self-destructive in this movie where you want to just reach out and like grab his shoulder and like stop him from doing half the shit he does.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if the guy in the car was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He still would have tried to get in that fight.
Absolutely.
And he would have lost.
Yeah. I think that was something you mentioned when we talked about this before as well, that he would absolutely pick a fight with someone who will beat his ass. Like he is just ready to pick that fight.
I think so for sure. Yeah. But he's Humphrey Bogart, so he'll never lose that fight.
Exactly. But what I also love in this opening is, so that scene's great, but then when he gets to this bar that he was trying to go to in the first place, there's a washed-up actor there, and he meets his friends, and he sees the actor. He's like, oh, and he like tries to sit by the actor, and they're all like, oh, don't, sit by him. Like, let's go get our table. He's like, no, we're going to sit right here. It's just a great way of saying, like, but he's loyal, though. That it's that tough guy with a heart thing where it's like, yeah, he beats people up, but also, like, he's loyal to his friends.
Yeah.
He doesn't leave them when they're down, because everyone is like, this guy's a fucking loser. And even the movie is like, this guy's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, and they do something saying, like, he was a huge star. Like, because I think the son-in-law or son of a major studio person comes in that scene that Humphrey Bogart fight. There's some kind of line that Humphrey Bogart said, like, that this actor made your studio, your dad's studio, back in the day.
Yeah, you get the sense, like, star. This, like you said, there's a bit of commentary on Hollywood in this, because this guy's like, yeah, this guy made your studio in the silent era, and he can't get a part now, but he still got all this money. Which, by the way, from what I understand, that is not as true as pop culture has led us to believe, that like silent actors couldn't make it in speaking roles. There's
really?
someone I read their stuff. I think it's Fritzy, but she goes by like Miss Silent Movies. Oh god damn it! I can't believe I'm forgetting the name, but she's kind of like gone off about how that is not the case. This idea that like, oh man, once the talkies came out, all silent stars were dead. It's like, that's not true. A lot of them were able to transition. Some of them were not. Some of them, their accents were too European to make it into movies. Although that always baffles me now, because I'm like, that didn't stop Schwarzenegger from being in Predator.
No,
like,
it didn't stop Schwarzenegger at all.
Yeah.
He said, I can't speak English clearly. I'm not only going to be the biggest action star in the world, I'm then going to be the governor.
Exactly. Yeah, that did not stop him at all. Why would it stop an actor who like, oh, sorry, you have to do your job, but now we record the lines? Really? That's good. Whatever. But,
well, a lot of it is probably just time. Like, how long does a movie star have to be like at the top of their game? Like,
for sure.
Like 20 years. Humphrey Bogart, 30s to 50s.
Yeah, I mean which
pretty much any
people,
actor.
When did he die exactly years. Again? Let's keep talking while I look this up. Because...
Okay, I'm going to throw out a random guess of 1957, and you keep looking. But I'll go ahead and describe more of the bar scene. So he
January in 1957, no less.
No way.
Yeah. Damn it. Okay. Yeah, you win. Which, by the way, so I mean that's 7 years after this movie comes out. He did not have a long career of being at the top of the world. I suppose.
No.
I suppose he did have like a good 15 years, but. Because, again, he had been acting for a long time, but his big break was, like, Maltese Falcon, Casablanca.
Which is, like, what, early 40s?
Yeah, early 40s, late 30s for some of the big-ish, but not that big stuff before that. Yeah, it's just kind of sad. I get sad thinking about, like, how, man, he really did not have, for again, one of the greatest actors who ever lived, one of the icons of American cinema, he really did not have that long to do so.
You think he's one of the greatest actors that ever lived?
So yes, but I want to couch that in something. Just in general, he's very rarely playing a character. He's usually playing himself, which is also why I love this movie. This is Bogart at his most himself.
I think he's one of the best movie stars of all time. I don't know if I think he's one of the best actors.
You know what? I'll agree with that then. Yeah, you're right. Not best actor, but best movie stars. Yes.
Oh yeah, he's super charismatic. His line deliveries are great. He's just generally close to the same person all the time.
Oh yeah,
it's the same personality. So. Where were we? Bar scene?
In the bar. So it's implied that he has not written a good movie in a long time. It's part of why he's depressed.
And this is when we find out that he's supposed to adapt the book, right?
Yes.
During this scene.
So there's a book they want him to adapt, like a trashy crime romance or something.
Yeah.
And this girl is reading it. What's her title? She like the coat check girl. I think they call her that. I think they call her
she's
like
the coat check girl or the check-in girl. Something at that front desk.
Yeah. So
the hostess would be today what we would call it.
Yes. So she's reading the book. Humphrey basically. Sorry, I love actually. There's a scene right before this. So, a woman who has clearly been with Bogart before says like, "Remember how I used to read to you?" And he's like, "Well, I read by myself now." And basically, it's clear that like they've slept together, but now he's like pissed off.
Yeah, he's been there, done that. He's not interested.
But this girl, he's like, "You want to read this book to me so that I don't have to read it myself and I can get the script finished sooner?" And I just love that they make him look kind of like a not even kind of like he looks like a scumbag. It's like, yeah, I'm done with this shit, but I'm going to use the exact same trick on this new, like you said, the new hotness, basically the new model.
Yeah, they do something in this scene actually too, lighting wise, where he's really hardly lit. It's only in one shot, and you can see all the wrinkles on his face a lot more than you can anywhere else in the movie. I thought it was going to be a theme that came out, like they were going to keep making him look older. But it's really just that one scene, so I don't know if it was an accident or it's there, but it made me very early on feel that creep vibe that you're talking about.
We'll definitely see later that they do not make him look pretty in this movie. They really want it to be like, no, if you thought his personality was ugly, like we are going to make him look ugly. Like we are going to make him look like a monster.
Yeah, Nosferatu's up in here.
Oh, yeah. But he does this. He goes home with the coat check girl and is trying to hit on her in like the most obvious ways possible. He like does the classic like, let me slip into something more comfortable. It comes out in a robe,
a nice robe, a silk robe. It's very nice.
And she's not buying it. She's got a boyfriend, and I love the reaction though when she starts telling him the plot, and he's just like laughing while she can't see because he's like, this book is awful.
Yeah, he's not interested at all.
Yeah.
There's the one part too that I like when he tries to get her to get a drink, and she said she wants a ginger ale with lime. So basically something non-alcoholic.
Wasn't it like a horse's neck or something? Yeah. So number one, like a non-alcoholic drink. Number two, I love that later he's gonna bring that drink name up like he already knew it, like he didn't find out what it was like 2 hours ago.
Oh, you don't do that?
No. Oh, I do that all the time. No, that's the most relatable thing he does, like in this movie. Where it's like, oh, I do that information all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Just something I know.
Yeah. Suddenly, recently in America, we've all become experts on the history of the post office. Suddenly we all know the history of that particular institution. But yeah, so it doesn't go well, and
so I'm gonna go ahead and describe the book that's in there.
Go ahead.
Because I think it's kind of interesting. It's she's describing it, and it's from a female perspective, and it's a widower. Is it widower? Is that the right term? Widow? It's just a widow, right?
She's a widow, yeah, because her
widower is the one that dies, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So she's a widow, and it's basically her just dealing with a bunch of guys trying to hit on her, and which relationship she'll pick or something, and then there's some kind of thriller aspect to it. So it's obviously something Humphrey Bogart doesn't care about. He doesn't seem to be interested in women's perspective of anything so far in this movie. I should call him Dixon Steele because I don't want to say Humphrey Bogart doesn't care about
You're right. But again, Dixon... it basically is Humphrey Bogart. Like, that's the problem with this one in particular. Some of the others, it's like, oh, let's make sure we get the characters. Like, no, this is just Humphrey. This is just... I think there are a couple scenes where they just showed up at his house and just had a camera and a lighting crew, and it's like, no, just walk around. Just like,
I'd love to be the guy that was like, hey, say something bad to him so he'll fight you.
Exactly. He does not give a shit about her thoughts or the book or any of that.
Yeah, it's clear he's not getting laid, and he doesn't care about the book. So it's basically like, all right, time to go. I'm going to sleep.
It's funny too that when they originally got to his apartment, Gloria Graham just walks right past them, which is a very not classic Hollywood thing to do when you introduce your lead actress.
Yeah,
you know, you introduce her in a very big dramatic shot with like the lighting all perfect on her face and stuff.
No, it's a wide shot where she just kind of walks through.
It's a wide shot. She just walks right through, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know who she is." Anyway,
she does walk literally right through them, though. They have to. Yeah. They're like next to each other, and they have to move out of the way for her.
Which was a bit like, "What are you doing here, dude? Like, what kind of move were you trying to pull there?
Yeah.
Like, were you gonna get clotheslined if they were already holding hands, or were you just like that committed to the bit?"
I guess so.
Yeah. So then he goes to bed, and things do not go well when he is woken up from his sleep.
No, and I don't remember who wakes him up. Does his agent wake him up or the cop?
The cop. The cop is the first one to wake him up. So yeah, a cop shows up at his door and basically says, "We want you to come in." I don't think they even tell him what it's for. And he doesn't know. So this is one of the
they don't. He doesn't know at all. He just says, "You'll find out when you get to the station."
And he's clearly friends with this cop. Like he knows him by name, which is another great way to like introduce all these characters. I really like that.
Which is Brub Nikolai, which is an interesting name.
That's the name of the character?
Yeah, that's the name
I don't
of the
remember
character.
that at all.
Yep, Brub Nikolai.
Wow.
I think he just calls him by his last name, maybe. Yeah. I don't remember Brub ever coming up.
I would have remembered. I feel like I would have remembered if they called him Brub. Why did they give him such a weird... Okay, whatever. It's fine. Wait, was that a common name if you were born in like 1920? Brub? B-R-U-B.
Yep. Brub.
Wow. Yeah, so the cop brings him into the station. And I don't think it's just kind of like he's very nonchalant about finding out about this girl's death. So the girl
he's cracking jokes.
Yeah, which even the cops are like, dude, you're not helping your own case that you weren't the murderer here because you're very like. I think one of them even says like, if anybody, and rightfully so, the cop brings this up, like if somebody finds out that like, hey, you were the last person to see this other person alive, most people would be pretty shocked. And he's just like cracking jokes and being a dick to the cops, which fair, but like. He has all these quick one-liners, and there is a good scene I like where he mentions, he's like, "Oh, are you recording this with tape or wire?" Like, just kind of be like, "Haha, I know you're recording this." And the cops are like, "Oh yeah, we're using tape. Here's where the microphone is." And he picks up something on his desk, and Dixon, for a second is just kind of taken back, like, "Huh, I didn't think they'd actually admit it." Like for once, he's not. This is like the first time in the movie he's not in control, and he's just kind of like, "Huh."
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, very little thing, but I like it a lot. His reaction to that is funny to me.
Yeah, I like that sequence too. There's another one in there where the cop asks him why he didn't walk her to the taxi stand. "It's not a gentleman of you."
I love
and
that.
He's like, "I didn't say I was a gentleman.
I said I was tired." That is such a good douchebag.
He's
line.
Literally like, "I just didn't care,
and
I still don't care."
I love that so much. God, yeah, he just delivers that effortlessly. I'll try not to talk too much more about Bogart's performance, but just I think that's the big thing, though. It all just feels so effortless, again, because I think this was his most real performance.
Well, in this scene, we see him do basically what he's done his whole career, which is the quick whips and the smart ass, I don't care about stuff. Mm-hmm. But in this, it's a much darker setting and scene than we normally see him deal with it. Like, it's not a murder that he's suspected of doing.
Yeah. He's not a cool guy. This is not Casablanca, where he's at least like running a pretty successful bar. This is like he's a failing screenwriter at this point, just getting drunk every night. Oh God, why do I relate to this movie? So
you didn't kill a random hostess, did you?
Well, not random, but like where were we? Oh yeah. So then though he does realize that he has an alibi. The neighbor who we saw walk past, Gloria Graham, and this is where we actually get to meet her. And she is, what I like about her introduction as well is she is keeping up with, like, she's not delivering too many one-liners. She does get a couple in. Yeah. But she is keeping up with his wittiness, his repartee, if you will. Yeah. God, that was so douchey. But you get what I'm saying. She is keeping up with.
She has a line back for every line he has.
Exactly, sure. And that the cops have. And she has that great line where. So she gives him the alibi, and they're kind of like, "You've never actually met this person before, though, and you're already like, ready to say he's not the murderer here." Yeah. And I forget. I hope this is close to the exact line, but she's like, he looks interesting. I like his face.
I like his face. Yeah.
Love that. That is
Humphry Bogart has a little sparkle in his eye too when they cut back to his reaction. Like, ooh.
Yeah, and then the cops are like,
"I like your face too."
Yeah. Hey man, gonna tap that? Yeah. So she gets a great intro, I think, but she does not go home with him.
No, he tries to bring her home.
He does, yeah,
because they live close to each other. So,
which actually makes sense. It is kind of like, hey, why don't we just we're in the same apartment complex. Why don't we just take the same car?
Well, she's not ready to. She doesn't. I don't know if she knows for sure he's not a murderer.
No, you're right. She does not.
She knows what the ride back will lead to.
That is what we described earlier, though, is that the scene she describes, she says, "Oh, I saw him send her off at his door." And so we saw that, but we did not see her see that.
Yeah, and we also didn't see her see him back inside.
Exactly. So right off the bat, it is a bit like, okay, we know that's true, but also she could just say that, She could have just said that. It's just a great little moment of planting some doubts in there where you're just like, wait, does she
know that?
Yeah, or is she just like that attracted to him that she's like, yeah, I'm just going to be his alibi, no questions asked.
Yeah.
So then he goes...
Also, I think we find out because the cops are looking at like her past or something before they bring her in. I think they find out that she used to be an actress or something, right?
Yes, yeah, you're right.
So
she
there's
used
this
to be in
idea
like
of,
B movies, yeah.
Being nice to the screenwriter, kind of.
Oh yeah, that they think, oh, that's why she's doing it. Like
Yeah.
she's gonna be nice to the screenwriter, getting a big movie. I get it now. But yeah, he doesn't go home right away. I love that he goes and buys flowers for the dead girl, which is a very and send them to her house, which I get that he's trying to be nice.
Which he says,
very suspecting thing to do.
Yeah, but what I love about that is the guy asks for the address and he says, "Look it up in the obituaries or something."
Yeah, and the guy is
look
like,
it up in the newspaper. I don't know,
sir. Like he's so even that guy's like, I think this guy did it. Like I don't even know if she was murder or natural causes, but I think he did it. Whatever he did,
that's suspicious for sure.
So what happens? I'm trying to remember exactly. By the way, we've both seen this movie recently, for the record, but sometimes just transitions between scenes. I'm always trying to remember how they get from one point to another.
If we miss a couple scenes, that's fine. I think we just try and hit the big notes or the scenes that stuck out to us. The next scene that I know that stuck out to me, and if you can remember something before this, just let me know, is when he gets back to his apartment. I don't know if it's right when he gets back, but when the agent comes over.
His agent, who is played by what was that guy's name?
So it's Art Smith, and the character's name is Mel Lipman.
He's really good in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's very good.
He is, for a while at least, like probably the most sympathetic character, which is a very interesting take on a Hollywood agent.
Yeah,
but
and I like his face. His is the face I
do like his face with those glasses and
funny,
everything.
Interesting face.
He is, and he genuinely considers Bogart a friend. Dixon Steele.
Yeah.
Dix for short, which is hilarious for a couple lines, by the way, where they're like, I love Dix. I'm like, come on. I'm just giggling to myself like a 10-year-old. But yeah, you're right. He shows up and Dixon just starts fucking with him. Very asshole thing to do. Again, very unsympathetic thing to just be like.
This was the scene where I thought, okay, he probably did do it.
Right.
I was thinking, nah, he didn't. He's just, because I know Humphrey Bogart's character. I know he's going to be a smart ass always. Mm-hmm. So I was like, he probably didn't do it. But at this scene, I was like, I think he probably did do it, because the agent has given him every chance to like confess or not confess, and every response he says is like playing on that line.
Yeah.
Of maybe I did it.
He's basically like, it is the OJ, like, if I did it. He basically just delivers that verbally. He's like, well, here's how I would have done it were I the killer, Yeah. And what I love is that his response, and this is what you want from a true friend, by the way, is that his response is not, you need to go to the police. His response is, I got to figure out how to get you across the border to Mexico.
Yeah.
That is his agent's response, which is just a really nice, again, like, yeah, technically they're committing a crime, but what a nice guy. Like, what a good friend.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Gloria Graham decides to stop by.
Yes.
Laurel.
Laurel and Mel are kind of both talking to each other about whether or not he did it. Well, he's there and he's still not helping his case. He's saying things in between.
Yeah. Again, this is the self-sabotaging thing. Like, and this is what I like about the writing, and I like this character, is that, yeah, it is Bogart, and he, like I said, is very effortless, very cool. But you get the sense that he is a broken man at this point. For whatever reason, like maybe it's just a lack of success the last couple of years, maybe the war did something, who knows, but he really just doesn't care. And he is willing to self-sabotage constantly. Again, he'll do it later to much larger degrees in the movie. But even just right here, it's like he can't even just make a case for himself. He would almost rather go to prison.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be concerned at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she says, like, I like your face. I didn't say I want to kiss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what happens here. And then Humphrey tries to set up a date or something, like something might happen in the future, but we get no confirmation from her.
Right, because she's like, let's think about it for, a couple days.
Yeah.
Let's think about going out even for a couple days. And then this is where my mind is now blank, and I would appreciate your help. What happens between now and when they actually do get together? I'm trying and failing to remember.
So in between this is more cop stuff.
Yes, and actually, I can't believe I forgot because I love this scene. Yeah. I love that. Again, this is where it's like, wait, did he do it? So this is the moment where they really hammer home that he might have done it once again.
Yeah.
So they cut to like some cop stuff, and the cops are talking about his record, and he has all these assault records, including one where an ex-girlfriend charged him of hitting her before retracting the charge. So even then you're like, and it's definitely playing to like the very 50s expectation of, oh, she's probably lying or something, where it's like, they want you as the audience though to be like, oh shit, like he's got a history of hitting women. Like, is this?
Yeah, he's
yeah, it's did he do it?
He's he's capable potentially of this.
Right. This is not one of those like this would be like if Jimmy Stewart was in this role, it would not work. Because it's like, this is just an innocent man, this Jimmy Stewart. Like, but this is like, no, he might have done it, both because of like how we've seen him act, but also here's his rap sheet. Yeah, he is not opposed to hitting people. And maybe he just
we've seen him in 2 fights before.
You're right. That's
they're
true.
both with men, but like in that paper, we understand. Okay, he can treat women similar.
Yeah. Yeah, so exactly. I love that little detail that it's like she retracted it, but especially a modern audience, I think is going to be like, no, he definitely hit her. There's no way. So then though they get together, correct?
Yeah.
They do get together though, and I was just joking, but it is like kind of an aggressive kiss. It's kind of like, damn, this is like a very like action heavy.
Well, we're not at their kiss yet. Hold on.
Oh, I apologize.
There's one more.
I'm trying really hard to get at this kiss. If you couldn't tell, I don't know why.
So there's one scene before where he doesn't know if there's going to be a date. There's supposed to be a date or whatever, but he's going out to the cop's wife's, or the cop and the cop's wife's place.
I apologize for trying to skip ahead of this scene. This is another thing where we talked about
because I remember this.
This is a great scene.
Yeah, and it plays before the kiss scene because it feels awkward if you do it right after because you make him look so villainous.
That's true because he's already motivated to be very like. He's very tense, like, already after what happens in this scene.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Definitely cinematography-wise. I think this is one of the ones that stands out.
So they're at the dinner, and they're talking and eating.
With the cop and his wife. The cop friend and his wife. And secretly, you can tell this is to
Burb.
Don't forget the Burb.
Burb and, I think it's Sylvia. Yeah, it's Sylvia.
Burb and Sylvia.
And they're at the dinner talking, blah, blah, blah. I don't really remember much of the beginning of the scene. I don't think it's as important as when he decides to reconstruct the event.
Right. I mean, they're trying to, the cop, the like police chief or whoever has clearly said like, hey, invite him to dinner, get him to talk, see if you can get any more out of him on a friendly basis. And then he uses them to reenact how he thinks the murder would have gone because. Again, it's implied that like a lot of the movies he's written are like crime movies, so he's thought about this a lot.
Yeah, and he literally gets them up to move out of their seats and places seats so that he can sit on a chair across for them and direct them through this murder. Yeah,
and the big thing is that she was found dead like on the side of the road, I think.
Thrown out of the car.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, well, I think she was strangled too, so... Yeah. Reenacting that, he's like, oh, you'd be in the driver's seat, she'd be in the passenger's, you've got her arm around her neck, and then you slowly squeeze. But what they do, I mean, that's the like summary of the scene with none of the good stuff. The good stuff is
the way they shoot
it.
Edit this scene together. It's basically just 2 shots back and forth of them where we see the couple, and then we see Humphry Bogart. But Humphry Bogart's got this like spotlight on his eyes, basically, so you just see from his eyes to his lips, and everything else is dark around him. Yeah. And it really intensifies like this like almost orgasmic face he's doing during violence.
I was about to say, not to like make another crappy joke, but he reacts to it like it's a sexual fantasy. Like he's so into it.
He's very pleased. It's probably like the happiest we see him in this movie, and it's very dark and like, but it's very unappealing the way they light it.
The spotlight itself also, like, you see it in his eyes, so like his eyes just pop out this whole time as he's describing. He's like, do it, and of course. Did you buy that, by the way, that the cop accidentally started like actually strangling his wife? I thought that was a little.
I don't think it got any close to strangulation. I think it just got a little tighter.
Oh yeah, she's like, oh, you're hurting. Yeah,
like, oh, I can feel it now. Instead of just being on my shoulder, it's like, oh, I can feel slight pressure.
But yeah,
I think it's about as close as he got. Being all really, really nice to Humphry Bogart and like, hey, come back, we love you, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. You have to come visit. You're so nice. And then as soon as she leaves the door, she's like, this motherfucker. Like
Yeah.
she's very not happy, and I felt that was a very real reaction. That I thought was funny.
The get this person out. I've done
I
that
hadn't
so many
seen
times.
that in like 50s movies. Like that's a very modern movie thing to me, I guess.
But then, when the cop is defending Dixon, he says one of the unintentionally funniest lines in the movie, which is, "I didn't go to college, but I know dicks better than you do." And that'll be the end of the dicks as dicks jokes. But that one killed me when I first saw it. It was just one of those where I'm like, was dick just not a word for penis back then? Because like that was pretty whatever.
yeah, I guess not.
So moving on.
So I think the next scene following this is he goes back to his apartment and Laurel Gray shows up, and I think this is the scene that you've been trying to talk about for the last 5 scenes.
I apologize. It's not even that great a scene. They just get together, have a very, again, very aggressive kiss. Quote Tanner Methvin, put that on the back of the box.
Yes. Very aggressive kiss.
They do. They get together though, and that's
his arms are like very around her neck and like on both sides of her jaw.
That's
like
what
a
it
very
is.
strong way. Like
Yeah.
And he's like like over her. It's a very powerful position that he is physically in,
Yeah.
and framed in.
which I want to say, and again, we won't skip ahead to it, but I believe you pointed out that they call back to that shot later.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'll mention it when we get there. Yeah.
Yes. Which is great about this movie, and again, like we've already set up some shots that they're going to call back to. Like they
Mhm.
love to do callbacks, which I love because it's just like I get it. Like oh, this is parallels the thing from
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah, but it's such an like not an easy trope, but it's a common trope in movies. But I don't care. I love it when it's
Oh
like,
no, it's great. Yeah.
when it's called
Especially
back.
for small things like little things that aren't meant to hit you over the head.
Oh,
on a callback.
Yeah, because I hate when a callback hits you over the head.
Yeah.
If they were to do this shot, let's say, and then again they call back to it later, when they did the callback, if they actually flashed back to this shot, like that would kill me because I hate when they do that stuff.
Yeah.
But I like when they leave it up to you, the viewer, to be like, oh yeah, that was the framing from earlier. Yeah. And so once they're together, they are very happy. Like
Yes, and it's a series of scenes. I don't really remember them all that well, and particularly individually, but it's a series of them having fun together.
yeah.
Um,
He also starts writing the script based on this book.
Yes.
And he's making a ton of progress. And even his agent is like, this is the fastest he's written in years,
Yeah,
And then,
when his agent comes over, that's really funny because he tries to talk to Dix, and Dix isn't responding.
oh yeah,
And then Laurel is saying stuff to him, like about how he's so handsome, or just making shit up. And
Yeah.
he's responding in one-word things that kind of work, that might not work. Like he's clearly not listening.
I think at one point she's like, you've been awarded, you're the winner of like the Philadelphia beauty contest, and he's like, oh, that's lovely,
Yeah.
just like real quick. Yeah, so that's I do think the best joke does come in this scene where that has-been actor we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
He just shows up at the house and he's drunk.
Uh-huh.
And what I love about this is I think they couldn't get the actor to do the stunt, but it makes it way funnier. Basically, the actor comes in, he's standing by like 2 small stairs to get onto a lower area of the house. Humphrey Bogart is like, hey there, Jim. And then you just hear like the falling,
Yeah.
and he goes, yeah, he always misses that stair. And that to me is actually like way funnier than if they showed like slapstick him falling down the stairs. I actually I actually
agree.
laughed out loud when he just like they cut to Humphrey Bogart saying hi, and then you hear the badunk, and
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, he misses that stare every time. I thought that was genuinely funny. It was a great little like moment of levity after, again, a couple very serious scenes.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, everything's just going well for a while.
Yeah, for this large section of the movie, I thought that this movie was a movie about a violent man who had a lot of demons inside of himself,
Yeah.
who now has found love, and those demons will start to go away. The creative stuff is back. He's writing again. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a movie where a guy becomes less violent and they live happily ever after.
They do, however, they have one scene where Gloria Graham's character, Laurel, is with her friend Martha, and Martha basically says, he's a violent man, get away from him, I know the type.
Yeah.
This will end badly.
What the fuck does Martha know? That's my question. Who the fuck is Martha?
Martha is in,
And
I think, one scene in this. It's funny because Martha is mentioned a lot, but she's only in the one scene.
Oh yeah, when they mentioned her later, I didn't even put it together that it was this lady.
That same person?
It's the one giving her the massage, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even put together that those were the same people. I thought she was a throwaway. I never thought about her again.
It's funny because there's only one scene that she's in, the massage scene, but before that and after that, they constantly bring up Martha because she's presumably Laurel's only friend, or at least the only friend we hear about.
Yeah.
But she is like giving that girlfriend advice, just like to stay away from him. Just this is not going to end well.
But what does she know? She doesn't know dicks like I know dicks.
She didn't go to college.
Yeah.
Then, of course, they go to the beach, which is also a very, very cool looking scene, by the way. Really like this scene. They go to the beach with the cop and his wife, because now it's a double date type of thing.
Yeah, and there's a scene prior to this that I'm just going to give a quick rundown.
I swear to God,
just
I'm going to stop skipping scenes. No, just because I'm going to stop skipping scenes.
It's important for plot. It's not important for the...
no, but you're right. It is.
It's Laurel and Sylvia. They're talking about the potential, whether or not he did it, and that the chief wants to talk to her. And then there's the scene where the chief talks to her.
Right.
And the chief basically implies, like, hey, he's our number one suspect. We're very confident he did it. Can you help us out here? And she says no, but it seems like it's worried her a little bit. Like she rejects him completely and says she's not going to help.
You're right. I think that's again. It's really. I like that they do this too. That it's a very old school Hollywood type of like romance seemingly, but they keep putting these doubts in her mind. Like, hey, for the record, this guy is he's the number one suspect, and for good reason. Like, here's his rap sheet. You know, he has a history of, let's call it, aggression.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't surprise us at all. But then we get the beach scene. And the reason that scene is, of course, relevant is that the cop's wife... By the way, I feel bad. We're just calling her the cop's wife the whole time. I'm sure her character...
Sylvia. I've been calling her Sylvia.
Well, thanks for standing by me. You're no Humphry Bogart helping his friend out.
I'm Dix.
When he's been referring to a female character in relation to her marriage. Anyway,
it might help people... follow better anyway on the podcast.
Maybe. But the cop's wife lets slip that Sylvia lets slip that that the police chief interviewed Laurel again. And that not only did the cop and Sylvia, see, I'm calling him the cop and I call her by her name. So
that's good. His name is Brub.
That's true. That's why I call him the cop though, because I'm not going to say Brub with a straight face. So not only did those two not tell Dixon, but Laurel did not either, and that's what really sets him off. Is he's just like, you didn't tell me?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's a little bit overreacting. I understand that she didn't tell him, but also she didn't sell him out.
No, exactly. And I mean,
she was pulled in to talk to him. It's not like she was like...
she tries to explain, but again, that's part of the problem of his character is that he doesn't give a shit. Like, he just gets angry. And so there's this scene with this, not a car chase, but they get in the car because he just wants to leave. Yeah, speeding.
It reminds me of... Have you ever seen Phantom Thread?
Never actually saw Phantom Thread. No.
There's a scene in there where he's just flying on these country roads just because he can, and that's kind of like what's going on here.
Gotcha. So he's speeding. He kind of cuts another guy off. He like grazes another guy's car, and the other car, understandably, is very mad because they both stop, and he's like, "Look what you did to my car." And then Humphry gets out, starts like beating him up. Here's the thing: Humphry Bogart, Dixon, whatever. He throws like 2 or 3 punches at the guy. The guy's on the ground. He picks up this rock. Dixon picks up this
big motherfucking rock.
Big fucking rock. It is a big fucking rock. He picks up this big fake rock, and he's about to slam it on the guy's head before Laurel says, Dix, no, stop, you'll kill him. And Dix realizes what he does, and he's all like, oh no, and then he gets back in the car, and they start to drive off.
This is the one part of the movie that's super dated to me.
This is very hokey.
It's very goofy. He kind of looks back like, oh, I didn't know I was going to kill him.
Yeah.
With this big fucking rock.
Exactly. Because he also grabs it's not like he grabbed the rock really fast. It was a very slow and deliberate grab. He took his time.
He's like trying to kill this guy.
Yeah. But I think in a modern movie, this is the one thing that a modern movie would do better, which is, I think he would just keep beating him up.
Yeah, I think just keep punching him.
Yeah.
Like if you've seen the Batman trailer.
Actually,
he just keeps punching him like that. That's what they should have done. Yeah, just had him keep punching.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think it's less, I guess, Hollywood. It makes more sense. It's like he just kept. It would make more sense for him to keep punching him. And again, the rock thing is just so dramatic. It's just a bit too hokey.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to believe because now I see him completely as a murderer at this point.
Right.
Because of this versus the fist thing. I mean, he's still murdering, but it feels less cold. And
it would be an accidental. It would be. Is that manslaughter? If that's
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I know that he would have murdered him, but I know that like the fist just seems more like, oh, I got carried away.
Exactly.
The rock feels like I'm trying to kill this guy.
Yeah. And then we also get another very hokey moment, even though I think it's a beloved moment from this movie.
Yeah.
In the car. Stuff. Well, actually, I'm not going to skip a scene this time because we get one thing that I really like, which is that this is the callback.
Yeah.
This is the first callback. They get in the car and they start to like drive off. And Humphry Bogart puts his arm around Gloria Graham in the same way that he was having the cop and Sylvia reenacted earlier.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great little moment. And also, she has no reason to suspect. She wasn't there for that scene.
No, she wasn't watching the movie.
But it's just a great... Yeah, the audience is like, didn't he talk about how easy it would be to kill someone like this? And he just almost killed someone?
Yeah.
And so that's...
He's mad at her. But it seems like by the end of the scene, he forgives her.
Mm-hmm. But then he... Okay, so he says this famous line. He says, I was born when she kissed me. I died when she left me. I lived a few weeks while she loved me. And he's like, I don't know where to put... I want to put it in the script. I don't know where. And
right here.
Yeah. No,
ding,
that's
ding,
what
ding,
I think
ding.
the writers were doing when they wrote this movie. They were like, we really want to have him say this poetic line, but we don't know where. Why not have him say it and also have him say, I don't know where to put this? Like,
and talk about it. Yeah.
Again, like a very like meta commentary, but I think they just I don't know. It's a very cheeky line. This will be called back to, by the way.
Yeah, this is a big line, and it's a famous. I get that it's like sounds poetic. It kind of sounds like trying to be poetic to me.
Yeah,
and less poetic than it's trying to be.
Exactly. Well, I think in fairness, again, very relatable that he thought of a line that probably does not belong in that script, but he's like, I'm gonna put it in there if it kills me. You know, I am absolutely. I like this too much. It is going in the damn script.
Yeah.
That again, very relatable. But so yeah, they leave. They drive off after this has happened, and then this is where. Would you say this is where the movie has shifted to her perspective?
Yeah, I think from this point on, we are in Laurel's perspective, and this is one of the reasons that I fucking love this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
Is this last little half of this movie where we switch perspectives?
Yeah, it becomes much more threatening. This becomes much less like, again, romantic.
Oh yeah,
drama.
We're kind of watching a movie about a damaged man, and then now we're watching a movie about a helpless woman
trapped with him, basically.
Trapped with this monster.
Yeah. I just want to skip ahead a little. People are like saying, "Oh, you got to stay with him," and partly because it's the whole like, well, if you don't
Not
say
Martha.
Not Martha. No, Martha. Hey, Martha knew what was up. Let's be real here. Martha knew exactly what was up. She's got some experience. But
where were you the whole movie, Martha?
Exactly. Because if she was in the movie, it's one of those where it's like the plot would be solved in 5 seconds in like an X-Men movie if Professor X had his powers, so they always have to get rid of his powers.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Martha is the Professor X of this movie. They just have to get rid of her because otherwise all the problems would be solved. This movie wouldn't happen.
Martha would run in there and get her out.
Yeah. There's a bunch of scenes, and we could talk about each one, but like just a bunch of them where she is just very, very nervous.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do?
I particularly like the one with the agent, Mel.
Yes, so this is what I was kind of hinting at. I didn't want to skip ahead, but but basically Mel is like, you have to stay with him, and this is where Mel starts to lose sympathy.
Yeah, I think I had a big issue with Mel and his reaction to this. I believe it and I buy it as a person, but I just did not agree with him, which was very much like the reason that you love him and all those things, his artisticness, his wittiness, his whatever, all those reasons that you love him are the same reasons that he's violent and bad.
Exactly.
And therefore you need to be with him.
Not to be too like psychologist here, but he is an enabler, right? He is enabling an abusive relationship. That is what he is doing here. He is doing that whole like, but really deep down you love him, that, you know, abuse victims have to overcome essentially.
Well, it seems very much like he's Dick's man, and it's like, oh, you're in trouble, but I need the best for Dix. I need him to be writing. I need him to not be mad at me. I need him to be happy.
Right. I think it's a bit of that, and I think, do you think it's that, or do you think it's the friendship? Because Dix is not successful right now. Like,
that's true. Maybe it's the friend. Either way, he's Dick's man.
Well, yes,
you know,
that is correct.
He's always going to take Dick's corner, you know, in the boxing ring. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. That whole time. This is why I keep calling him Humphrey, right? This is why I keep
you
calling
call
him Bogart.
Mr. Steele?
Yeah, or Mr. Steele. Yeah, well, that's fine.
Isn't
too.
that what's his name in the Maltese Falcon? Isn't it Sam? Oh, it's Sam Spade. Spade, not Steele.
Trying to think if there was a comic book Mr. Steele. To be honest, there is a Steele that Shaquille O'Neal played in the movie, but
Dick Steele.
Is
a great name. It could be. He could be.
I like the
superhero name.
I like Dixon. Yeah, actually, you're right. That is a total like of that time superhero name, Dixon Steele.
Yeah.
But yeah, the agent man. I don't know. So you're saying you don't like it, and I mean I don't like it either. But I think that's totally in his character.
No. Yeah. No. I believe him, and I believe that he's doing this. This scene just felt a little dated to me. I feel like they wouldn't do that.
Oh, really?
This is the same way they treated it in this.
Interesting. I thought this felt so
scene.
modern that
Maybe.
people around him would not really care what the woman thinks.
Do you think
frankly.
the movie's telling us that we shouldn't be with him, or shouldn't agree with him, or do you think the movie's on his side?
That's a fair question. I think the movie is still very, again, why we like the movie, very ambiguous. Even now, it's still like, well, we don't know that he killed that woman, you know? Like, we know he was about to kill the guy, but we don't know if he's guilty of that. And which, I hope this isn't moving away, but, like, this is sort of why I love this movie, which is that already, and this will be dealt with later, it doesn't matter if he killed her at this point. He's already just shown himself that, like, this relationship will not work.
Yeah.
Whether he is found guilty or not, that doesn't even matter anymore. And that will be hammered home later. But see, I think it is actually very modern to have the again, the people around the abuser. And again, I'm not trying to armchair psychology here, but yeah, I think basically enable that kind of behavior and just excuse it. And then this is where I thought there was a hokey scene. Is I believe the scene that follows that is the grapefruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where, okay, I don't eat grapefruit, so I didn't know what a grapefruit knife looked like.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I thought he did it the right way.
He goes into the kitchen. He's like, I'll make us breakfast. Dixon is like, I'll make us breakfast. And he goes into the kitchen and he gets a grapefruit. And then he pulls out like a knife that's bent and then bends it straight again. Yeah. And I thought, okay. And then he kind of like stabs it. Like, you can't see the visual I'm doing, but you know, it's the murder stab. Right? Yeah. He's like stabs this grapefruit, and I'm like, this is so over the top. Why did they even have him bend a knife just to show that like he knows how knives work? And then she comes in and she's like, it's a grapefruit knife, you idiot. It's supposed to be bent.
Yeah, and he's like, oh.
Yeah. But that would have been me. I'd be like, oh. It's just a
yeah,
thing of, like,
I didn't think he was doing
that
anything
to me is
wrong.
not like that scene. I'm like, he didn't do anything wrong there. He's done so much wrong and he will do more wrong. But that time he did exactly what I would have done, where I'm like, why is this knife bent like this?
Yeah. And then I think the second half of this scene is where it goes on to where she's like, I read your script. I really like it. I like the love scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know if that's her trying to get him to get more loving.
Yeah,
and
really.
see, maybe I can stay with him.
Take the hint.
And he kind of responds like, that's because my love scenes aren't about love. They're about something else, but love is underneath. Like this grapefruit. Somebody looks at us, they can tell that we're in love. And the audience is like, well, you're in love. At this point, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she's still in love at this point, but this is like at the edge.
But again, like
by the next scene, she won't be in love with him.
Yeah. But like you said, also, this is a very like Hollywood commentary moment of him just outlining. He's like, yeah, this is how love scenes work. You show them doing something. You don't have them say, I love you. You show them doing something that you then understand their relationship. And this is a weird one to cite because it's not romantic love, but I recently watched Kramer versus Kramer. And there's a great scene between Dustin Hoffman and the kid where, like, earlier when he first has to take care of this kid by himself, he fails at making breakfast for him miserably. Basically, their morning goes terrible.
Yep.
And then later in the movie, it's just a great shot or a great scene of them in the morning just waking up, and they've got this routine down of how they eat and stuff, and you know, just how smooth it is. And that, to me, is exactly what Dixon Steele is talking about in this scene.
Okay,
yeah. And I think it's just a cool scene of, like, yeah, you don't need them to say I love you, you know, you just have them do something and the audience gets it. Of course, this scene, Dixon is stabbing a grapefruit to death, and he's just like,
and he's changed the tool that he's supposed to use. He's
not exactly
he's
doing
forced
well.
Things to his way, kind of.
Exactly. He's super controlling. That's why I called out that moment earlier with the cop and the wire, basically, that was recording him, because I think there's so much in this movie, he just is so in control, and when he's not, it's not good for him, or he doesn't react well to not being in control. And then
I think the next is there's like some stuff with the maid that basically just gives him the idea of getting engaged.
Yes, I forgot this maid has been here the whole time.
But that scene's she's not really that interesting to me. I don't know.
But she is like, you two should get married.
Plot. Yeah.
And so Humphrey Bogart is like, yes. Yeah, let's get married right now.
It's the next time he sees her.
Let's get married like right now. I'm gonna go out and buy a ring.
Yep.
Because obviously we have to have an engagement ring. And this is where
she's really hesitant about saying yes or no, so she's saying a lot of things other than yes or no.
Yep. And then he is like, no, yes or no.
And he's like grabbing her from behind. And kind of holding her really tightly. And it's kind of like sweet if his arms weren't gripped so tightly. Like, it's kind of like a sweet seductive hold, it looks like at first, but then his like arms are so tight around her.
No, you're absolutely
like,
right.
Holding her. Yeah, it's like something that's so off from being sweet to being vicious
in so many other movies. So, and again, I apologize, podcast listeners, you can't see the frame Logan has pulled up here, but you have seen, I promise you have seen this shot in every old movie that features a romance, because it is always shot from the exact same angle. Like, I mean it, the exact same angle.
Yeah.
And it's always the guy behind her, just like kind of gently grabbing her arms. He's over her left shoulder, never the right, by the way, because the camera is always getting them at the left, on the left
it's
side.
gotta be on the left side.
Yeah.
It's the good side.
Exactly. So, I think that was Two-Face's ugly side.
Oh, is it?
Just want to point that out. Yeah. Like, you always get that shot in a movie. So you're right. I like that even then it's like, no, this is a dark version of that. This is just very much like classic. It's like classic Hollywood just twisted.
Well, yeah, it's cool also because it's not framed at all the same way, but I'll call it a callback just simply because of action. It's interesting that we see earlier the way that she goes around him when he's writing.
Yeah.
She's like around him, but she's not. She's kind of touching his waist and just kind of like barely touching him and like nuzzling him, very soft. And then his is the exact opposite. It's very strong and aggressive.
Yeah. And she does say yes, though. She does finally relent and say yes.
Yeah.
And then he rushes.
She looks so happy in her face. I gotta say, in these sequences, I thought Gloria Graham was good throughout this movie, but it's really the second half of the movie that I think she's amazing.
100%.
Because I read all of her emotions at each scene, like where she's going. I can track her character, like, honestly, without a lot of dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Just with her face.
And in fact, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about Bogart this whole time. Gloria Graham is amazing in this. This is... and I've seen her in a couple other movies as well. This is easily my favorite.
I've never seen her before, so this was great watching.
She's great. She's also great in The Big Heat. If you watch that,
okay,
she's really good in The Big Heat. That's where she gets all like her face gets all scarred up for like the second half.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's a bummer. She's pretty beautiful.
She is, man. Well, by the way,
wasn't in real life, was it?
Oh no, not in real life. She did. Well, no, she did have a horrible surgery gone wrong after this movie. Because a big thing for her was her lips. Like she liked that she had these lips that were like naturally pouty, and like kind of the upper lip was kind of like always out. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So she had some surgery done, and it messed up her lips so much that like she had to stuff tissue in there every time she did a movie just to make her like talk normal.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they said like if she ever did a kiss with somebody, they would get a mouthful of like wet tissue, like residue.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. I'm trying to remember exactly how the surgery went wrong, but suffice to say, it went wrong.
Yeah.
And also, quick other Gloria Graham fun, not so fun fact. She was married to Nicholas Ray, the director of this movie. And then they divorced.
Yeah.
And then she married his son.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Who was 13,
we didn't talk about that part yet.
Who was 13 at the time that she married Nicholas Ray. Apparently they had a happy marriage, I guess, but like still just very, very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how her life ended, unfortunately, but yeah, she's a fascinating character in her own right. But yeah, her performance in this movie, like you said, this movie trusts its audience. There's a lot of stuff she doesn't have to say because she's just going to perform it.
Yeah. And I think she does such a great job. So the next scene is, I believe, the engagement party, because he's like, let's go have an engagement party and invite all our friends and enemies.
One thing, I get to be the person who tells you what you skipped.
Oh,
finally.
Gotcha.
Well, it is a plot point, though, which is that she books a ticket. She books a plane ticket.
Oh, yeah. Do we see that? She calls Martha, right? We see her on the phone and stuff.
She's always calling Martha. Yeah. But she actually calls the flight company, and they're like, well, we might have one open, we'll have to call you later, which is a big like Chekhov's gun setup. This is gonna play out later. But yeah, she does like try to get on a plane tonight, and she also does call Martha.
That's how I knew she was waiting for a call. I didn't realize she was waiting for 2 calls.
Yeah, I think she is. I'm pretty sure. I know she called the flight people. I think she also called Martha.
She definitely, because Martha's the one that calls at the restaurant.
Oh, you're right.
That's the one that calls her back there.
So then you're right. They go to the restaurant for the saddest engagement party in history.
Oh yeah,
this is just depressing.
Not smiling once, I think.
No one's happy. The people who are there, so it's the couple, it's the agent, the drunk has-been actor, and Humphrey Bogart's ex-girlfriend that we met in that very first bar scene.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
All his friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're right. Talk about like how controlling this guy is. None of her friends. Martha did not even get an invite, but all of his friends did. You bet your ass they all came, including his ex.
Yeah,
he invited his ex to his engagement, which is a hell of a thing to do. But his ex also let slip that. Oh, I'm sorry. See, we both skipped something. The script got turned in because the agent decided that, hey, Gloria Graham.
Did we know that before that?
Yes, because the agent actually came up to Gloria Graham and he's like, hey, if you're gonna dump him, he's gonna be broken and distraught. So I'm going to take the script, the finished script, because at least if he's got a published script that they're making into a movie and he's got money coming in.
And also this agent knows that this engagement's probably not going to happen.
Yes, the agent knows that this.
That gives key information.
Gloria Graham has told him
too.
this shit ain't happening.
Yeah.
And the agent's like,
which he's very good in this. He's not as
dickhole-ish
in this scene. Yeah.
No, because he's like, well, look, if Humphrey has some success, he's trying to get her out of it. He's like, fine, but let me at least get him some success so he doesn't destroy himself. But then, of course, this slips out from his ex-girlfriend at the engagement party.
Yep.
It's also implied that the agent read the script and didn't like it, which was kind of a leap for Humphrey to make, but I guess that's the case since the agent doesn't deny it. So already, like,
the agent says, "What does it matter what I think?" Which implies,
you're right, 100%. Which is also a very that is actually again very relatable. That is something you tell people when you don't like what they did. It doesn't matter what I think. What matters is that you like it. It's like, I think it's a piece of shit personally. So he flips out. Dixon flips out. He just starts he really loses it right here. And again, it could be exaggerated, but I think it really fits just this idea that he is always. He is a dangerous man. He is always ready to fight and destroy everything around him. And at one point, he slaps his agent in the face.
Yeah, takes those glasses clean off.
With a backhand, too.
It's aggressive. And that point where this is happening, I believe, is when the phone is passed around. Martha calls, and I keep forgetting her. Gloria Graham wants to go. We don't know because Humphrey answers the phone, and we just hear Humphrey's side, I think.
Oh, yeah.
She wants to get up and answer the phone, and Humphrey's like, no, you can't leave. You bring the phone here. And then he gets really upset that they don't want to bring the phone here.
Right.
And then he's like, what, you don't want to have this in front of me? That's the issue. So then he answers the phone. And then I think the agent tries to answer the phone too. Or tries to grab the phone or something. And that's when the altercation happens, I think he's slightly standing up for her.
Oh, yeah.
Is what causes the incident.
Yeah. Because, he does. So Bogart does slap him. The agent goes to the bathroom to kind of clean himself up, which Humphrey Dixon follows. And he it's the thing, man, he's been this way with everyone around him, presumably, because he apologizes to the agent, and he's like, hey, agent, whose name I'd know, but anyway, hey, agent, do you want to find, or do you want me to find a new agent? And the agent's like, no, we're going to stay together.
Yeah, we're good. We're fine.
Again, the agent is too far gone,
You can beat me up,
man.
I don't care.
He's too far.
But he was a champ, I think, standing up for her for that little bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But that's the other thing. She has slipped out of the restaurant while all this has happened.
Yeah.
And then they meet up. Not going to skip a scene. We're not skipping any goddamn scenes anymore because the waiter or the host, he gets a call for them, but they have all left. Yeah. He hangs up the phone, and we see the other end. It's the police. Because the police have found the actual culprit. The girl had a boyfriend who has attempted suicide and also laid out his whole confession of here's how I did it. Which, by the way, earlier Humphrey Bogart was like, I guarantee you it's the boyfriend. I guarantee you 100% the boyfriend did it. So it's just proving him right there. And they're like, well, yeah, we got to tell Dixon because poor guy, we've been sabotaging this whole relationship.
Yeah.
Then they get to the apartment, Dixon and Laurel do. Laurel will not tell Dixon what she's doing. She's
she's got the door locked. She's got both doors locked.
This is her apartment, by the way. Yeah. Got the doors locked. She's not wearing her engagement ring when she does unlock the door and he can see.
And we see her packing before the doors open.
Yeah.
Which she plays off as if packing for a honeymoon. And there's a couple things she takes out and throws back. I guess they would have given away that she was not packing for the honeymoon.
Yeah, because I think he says that's a lot to pack for the honeymoon. And then finally, the airline company calls. He gets the phone. Mm-hmm. And he finds out about the plane ticket she's trying to book for tonight. And this is where...
to New York.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right, to New York.
I don't know why New York's important. But...
It's fine. And this is where he just becomes full monster. Not even... Actually, before he even becomes full monster, you see him looking like one. And I remember when I was taking notes for this, I wrote down, he looks like fucking Dracula.
Yep.
He really looks like a monster in the scene where he answers the phone. He does not look pretty, man.
So they have him contorting weird. What I remember, he's kind of hunched or something,
he's hunched over.
And they do that same spotlight thing they did earlier. They do it twice in the movie. Yeah. And this is the other one.
And nothing about his face looks... There's nothing of the stuff where it's here's the attractive stuff of Humphrey Bogart. None of that is present. It's all the old man hard edges type thing. Yeah, it's a great shot. It's just, again, I think it's worth noting that this is, of course, many years after Casablanca. Humphrey Bogart, one of the most beloved stars in Hollywood, and they are just making him into...
What would you say, 2.5 million cigarettes later?
Oh, yeah, 3.5 probably.
3.5 million cigarettes, yeah.
Which, that, for the record, people who don't know, that was what killed him, was lung cancer. He could drink like a motherfucker too, though. Like
Yeah.
the alcohol apparently did nothing to him, but
Well,
the
apparently
smoking
he
did.
smoked like it was something like 40 or 50 cigarettes a day.
he
That's
smoked-
like 2.5 packs.
That's a lot.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But he finally has had enough. He strangles her. And this is number one, it's horrible, but number two, this is the callback to that earlier shot.
Yeah, they kind of have him over her and her down helpless and in a wide, kind of the same way they do before. And his hands are almost identical. They're literally like an inch lower than they were when he kissed her. To strangle her versus kissing her.
Yeah.
Was like barely any difference, which I thought was interesting.
Oh no, it's great. Like it's a great callback. And I didn't notice that until you pointed it out to me. And part of me does wonder if it was intentional, but like looking at that, I'm like, whether intentional or not, it works so well.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he strangles her and realizes what he's doing and steps back. Much like with The Rock, it's like the same reaction of just feeling regret.
Yeah.
And the phone rings again. He gets it again, and this time they find out from the cops, hey, you have been acquitted of all. I don't know if you can be acquitted if you haven't technically been charged yet, but basically you're cleared of all suspicion.
Yeah, you're not a suspect anymore.
Let's start a legal podcast where we just know nothing and we just guess how
we just make up laws.
Yeah, we just guess how the law works. But yeah, you've been cleared of all charges, and he gives the phone to Gloria Graham, and they tell her the same thing. And there's like this great line where she says, like, you know, this, if you had told me this yesterday, it would have meant the world to us. Now it means nothing. And I love that because, again, I mean, we're basically at the end, so like, and it's a spoiler podcast anyway, but this is a downer of a movie because it's like, hey, he's been cleared, but that doesn't mean things go back to happy days. Like, he still did this when he found out she was leaving him.
Yeah.
He still strangled her.
It was over at the strangle. Like, that's
Yeah.
the end. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether he killed her or not. He's capable of,
The fact that he's capable of it is what matters.
if not murder, but at least
Yeah.
severe domestic violence, and you don't want to be in that relationship.
No, exactly. I love that this movie is like, no, it and in fact, well, we'll discuss the ending, and then I guess we should talk about a little bit about the alternate ending.
Okay, yeah.
Because there was an alternate ending that was shot for this. But so yeah, she says that he leaves the apartment and he walks off. Not even really walks off. He just stands like outside. Here's what I do like. She does call back to that I was born when she kissed me line.
Yeah.
But what I do like about that is instead of repeating the whole thing, she only repeats the end where she says, I lived a few days while she loved me.
Yeah.
Let it into the whole line. If that went on too long, I would have like lost it. But
Yeah.
but since she just calls back to that, I actually do kind of like that.
Yeah, I like it at the end, too.
Yeah. And then it just ends with him again, like think of classic Hollywood, how a movie's supposed to end. It's like, look at our hero riding off into the sunset. Everything's good. They're going to get married, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is like, no, it's a high angle shot looking down. His back is turned to the camera and he's just sad. You can't even see his face. He's just broken, and it says the end.
Yeah, he's not walking to happy things. He's not even going to his apartment.
So
he's just going out.
Yeah.
I assume he's going to go get drunk and probably die or something.
So that's the thing. It's an open-ended ending. I think he kills himself after this.
Yeah.
That's my personal belief. Much like the Rugrats are actually all dead and in purgatory, this is canon. We have
You've
proven
decided
this.
that he's dead.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going, but I know it's not good things. I don't have a lot of hope for this character.
No,
going forward.
Yeah, he's gonna kill someone or himself, and I think he kills himself. So yeah, that is In a Lonely Place basically, and there's a couple other things I think worth talking about, like number one, the alternate ending.
Yeah, basically the original ending that was written in the script was that he actually kills her when he strangles her, and it ends there. Well, it doesn't. That scene.
I was about
ends
to
there.
say it has a very hokey
and then
thing that follows,
and then it cuts back to him finishing his script. Like, oh, it's done, and then the cops come in and arrest him. We're presuming they don't even care about the first murder. I don't know how the first murder played into this, but he's being arrested for the second murder.
Right.
And then the camera pushes in on the script that has the I love you. What's that line?
Born when she kissed me, died when she left me, blah blah blah.
I lived while she loved me.
Yes.
Lived for 2
That
weeks.
was the
while she
last
loved me.
line in his script, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's the idea.
it's a line in the script.
Right.
But yeah, the last line, I guess.
But then the cops take him away. So that is not my favorite idea of an ending.
No, the movie completely changes, and I don't know if I like that movie very much. I'm sure I still like it because of the lead up for everything else, but I definitely don't love that movie.
You're right. And you know what? I think you and I have perfect points of comparison, because we were talking about this with movies we recently watched. I watched a movie called Gilda. You watched one called Red River.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how and I'm trying not to spoil these because I think they're both really good movies.
Yeah, I
But
would recommend both of them.
But the last 2 minutes of each of those nearly ruins it. Like it pisses me off.
It goes against everything that the movie had been setting up for prior to
both
that.
stories are basically very dark takes on like Hollywood types. Or like basically typical characters. It's not like commenting on Hollywood, but it's just they're dark movies, they're dark stories. And then at the end, it ends way too. Obviously, this wasn't the case with the original ending for Lonely Place, but it ends way too happy and like it ties everything up neatly. That's the big thing. Is that even that In a Lonely Place ending, it does tie everything up neatly, whereas the one we actually got does not.
No, it leaves it much more ambiguous.
Yeah, which I really, really love.
Which I think is much better.
So Nicholas Ray, the director, I have a quote from him actually regarding why they changed the ending, which I love this quote. He says, quote, "I just couldn't believe the ending that Bundy," referring to screenwriter Andrew Solt, "and I had written. I shot it because it was my obligation to do it. Then I kicked everybody off stage except Bogart, Art Smith, and Gloria." Art Smith being... Wait, wasn't that the agent?
The agent.
What the hell was he doing there?
He might have been in the original scene.
Actually, you're right. Maybe he was in the original scene. Anyway, yeah, I kicked everybody off stage except Bogart, Art Smith, and Gloria, and we improvised the ending as it is now. In the original ending, we had ribbons, so it was all tied up into a very neat package, with Lovejoy coming in and arresting him as he was writing the last lines, having killed Gloria. Huh. And I thought, shit, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Romances don't have to end that way. Marriages don't have to end that way. They don't have to end in violence. Let the audience make up its own mind what's going to happen to Bogey when he goes outside the apartment. Those last two sentences in particular, I agree with so much, which is that, and this still happens in modern movies. This is a Hollywood all-time thing. This is not a just old school movies thing where the romance is always neatly solved. Either they get together or one of them dies, or they both die. It's never that they just... I mean, I guess now we're seeing some more movies that are like, no, they just break up and they just have to move on.
Yeah, but it's not as often in mainstream blockbuster movies.
Right, like indie movies do that. We see a lot of indie movies do that, but in a mainstream movie, not even a blockbuster, just like mainstream dramas, I think a lot of the time. It's
classic,
like,
what you would call classic Hollywood fare,
right,
like
exactly.
the studio system movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, like even today, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's studio movies today.
Enough, yeah. But yeah, I think that was just such a good thing to do, just to say like, no, it doesn't end because one of them dies and they don't get together. It just ends because this relationship cannot work because he is I'm trying to think of the word besides broken, but like distraught, angry man, and this relationship simply can't exist with her being safe.
Yeah, they just don't work. Kind of like Nicholas Ray and Gloria.
Yeah, actually,
they just don't work.
Yeah, boy, you think he was writing a little bit of that into the movie as it was happening?
I'd be fascinated at which part they broke up at.
Yeah,
and which order they shot this movie.
Probably right after they shot the ending, and he was like, you know what, this is a better idea than the killing you I had planned. Let's just get a divorce. By the way, people, look up a picture of old Nicholas Ray. Dude looks like Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. It's insane. He's the coolest looking director I've ever
he's a
seen.
real rebel.
Yeah. Hey, get it? Because he also did Rebel Without a Cause. By the way, out of those two movies, I prefer this one. Love Rebel Without a Cause.
I've seen 3 of his movies, and this one is my favorite as well. I like Rebel Without a Cause a lot, but this one feels more like heart, I guess, in it. It feels more personal in a lot of ways. This feels like one of the more personal...
That makes sense.
...classic Hollywood films I've seen. So there's a couple topics I wanted to talk about that we passed through. I guess one is the book versus the film adaptation.
Right.
So the book was about a serial killer and a rapist.
Yes.
And he was a novelist, and it was straight up, he's a bad guy, and he does this all the time. And he did kill the first girl, and he's going to kill this next girl that he's in a relationship with. Much less interesting.
Yeah. Very different, which, again, that's why sometimes don't be mad at an adaptation. Hey, maybe the book is good on its own merits, but this is so much more interesting with the ambiguity of it.
Yeah. I have another Nicholas Ray quote, too, from that. Really? Talking about the reason they made so many changes from the book. From the whole character. He says, I was more interested in doing a film about the violence in all of us rather than a mass murder film about a psychopath.
God, that's great.
Yeah.
Nicholas Ray, say what you will. He's got some good quotes. He
and I think he achieved his point.
Oh,
he made a movie about violence in regular people where this guy didn't... I mean, this guy was clearly a loose cannon and a problem.
You're right.
I never thought he was a psychopath or sociopath. Like, he clearly had emotions and cared for people.
I think you're right. I think if we saw him kill people, like the car guy or Gloria,
yeah,
that would have made this movie actually just way worse. Because again, not necessarily a bad movie, just way less interesting. It's so much more interesting that he's a bad person, but he's not a killer, but he's still a bad person. Which again, I know,
unless
like,
you take that rock thing into account.
Yeah,
I really think that should be gone. But
no, I mean, it's
the
probably.
rest of it's great.
I would argue that is the worst moment in the movie because, and you really have to watch the clip to understand like how deliberate the picking up of the rock is, because it's one thing if he just suddenly like grabbed it real fast or like pulls something out of his pocket or like whatever. He like slowly looks at this rock and then picks it up and like raises it up high and hesitates. It is a very cheesy, not in a good way moment.
Yeah, I agree. So there's another couple things that I had, which was I liked all the meta Hollywood humor. I have a couple quotes down. The girl at the beginning that's telling him about the book says, "I thought actors wrote their own lines," and Humphrey Bogart says, "When they're big stars, they usually do."
Oh yeah,
which I thought was great coming out of Humphrey Bogart.
You're right, exactly.
A huge star.
Yeah.
And then when she was talking about the movie that they were going to make based on adapting it, she said, "Boy, I hope it's in Technicolor," which is obviously not what they did. Basically, almost all the quotes seem like the antithetical of the movie that we're watching.
Yeah.
When they're talking about that stuff. So I thought that was really interesting.
No, sure. Well, also like we mentioned earlier, that grapefruit scene. He's talking about how love scenes work.
Yeah.
And how this should be a very romantic scene, and it is the exact opposite.
It's not. Yeah.
Which even just acknowledging that, like, what is a very common... Oh, so this was something else I found out about Bogart. He also, like, he didn't really care... Okay, I would have to... I didn't find a source for this. This was just, like, me browsing the internet. Like a better source. But I believe he was also that way where he didn't really like to watch what he was in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was a very interesting... I love, by the way, I do have a quote from Bogart real quick just about his thoughts on why he got into acting.
Yeah.
He says, and I quote, "I was born to be indolent, and this was the softest of rackets." Indolent means like lazy or like easy, easy working, which I love that. When we have, again, other guys at the time like John Wayne who are like, "Look how freaking tough I am in all these movies."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah, dude, acting's easy. Like I just show up, read my lines, and get pampered all day."
Yeah, I just wanted an easy job, so acting is what I chose. That's what it sounds like. So let's talk about the reception of this movie. So, it's an 8.0 on IMDb for people that care about that. So it's well respected. 25,000 views, so 25,000 people have voted.
If you couldn't tell by my little giggle, by the way, I do not take IMDb that seriously.
Yeah, I don't think people do either. I don't check it for my views, but
well, how was it received at the time?
I was gonna say it was a at least awards wise and box office wise, it was a flop. It did not do very well, and it received no awards for anything. And I wanted to pose this question: you think it's probably too dark and too ahead of its time? And then the other thing is, do you think that it affected that Sunset Boulevard came out the same year as this, 1950? They're both writer movies.
I was about to say, first of all, this and Sunset Boulevard, which is actually another one of the movies I sent you. I'm like, we could talk about this.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. This and Sunset Boulevard coming out in the same year, that's nuts. Mm-hmm. It's one of those where, like, I think, like, 69 is another year where, like, you look up all the movies that came out in that year and you're like, whoa. Yeah. But these two coming out in the same year is like these exact same kinds. As for your actual question, do I think Sunset Boulevard affected it? I don't know what is in this that would be more morally reprehensible than, say, Sunset Boulevard. Because Sunset Boulevard, talk about the reception to the time for Sunset Boulevard. That was, I mean, I believe critics liked it, but Hollywood people were like trying to get it shut down while it was being made. If I remember correct.
I think that's probably mostly people that were taking offense to the movie. Like, I know it received a bunch of Academy Award nominations and I think wins even.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty harsh condemnation of a lot of Hollywood, especially the studio system. So, like, I know Louis
I think
Mayer,
it's much more Hollywood than this. This one is less interested in Hollywood. It has a couple little lines at digs inside Hollywood.
And we know from the Academy, Hollywood loves nothing more than itself. Like, if a movie's made about Hollywood, it's going to get some awards. So you're right. I mean, that could affect it. What was your first question again before Sunset Boulevard? Oh, just that this movie was too dark
and ahead of its time.
I wonder because it's an A movie noir, and I feel like I need to specify that. Like, I feel like the use of the term B movie has been kind of corrupted. It's not like today. It's not totally inaccurate, but I think people associate B movie with a bad movie, and that is not the case.
No, it's just cheap movie.
Yeah, it's just literally the programming. It was money. Like you have the prestigious movie and you have the cheap. Usually a bit more considered trashy movie.
Yeah, well, it usually has to do with just money, and most of that money is paying the stars. So the A movie is the one with all your Hollywood stars that people will go see, and your B movie is unknown faces, or I guess they would become B cult classic people if you saw a lot of B movies, but they weren't famous.
Yeah. And it's again, like I always want to scream. It's like people love noir so much. And a lot of noir people get this, but like, God, now I'm being the douchey like film snob. But
you like the B noirs, like T-Man, G-Man?
I like those too, but I think it's just in general, noir is very celebrated. And I want to scream at people like, this was considered trash. This was considered the trashier movie.
Yeah.
I always think about how there's a Conan O'Brien said this quote, but there's a quote where he was talking to someone about how like, they said Clark Gable was the face of the 20th century, and now you're like, who gives a shit about Clark Gable? Like, we don't know how stuff is going to age.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those A movies, I think a lot of people just forget about, and it's the B movies that ended up standing out.
Oh, was this one a B one?
So that's what I was about to say.
Okay.
This is an A movie.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if, like, this is an A movie that has a lot of B movie tropes, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a little more challenging than your general A movie.
Exactly.
You want your thrills and your excitement, which I feel like, and a lot of comedy in generally. A lot of things that I think Sunset Boulevard delivers on that this movie doesn't, but not because it doesn't want to deliver on those things. It's not interested in those things.
Right. And by the way, we're not trashing Sunset Boulevard because that's also an amazing movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying the difference of them. Yeah, yeah.
I think this one, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like this just didn't light the world on fire, and it's an unsatisfying answer. But sometimes it's like it just didn't because it just didn't.
Yeah.
I hate to do that because obviously, but I mean, this had Humphry Bogart, one of the biggest stars on the planet at the time.
Yeah. Was he big at this time?
Oh yeah. Still? This is post Casablanca.
Well, I knew it was that. I just don't know how long stars last.
I think Bogart lasted. He was just so iconic.
I mean, he did have a lot of hits in the 40s.
Oh yeah.
So,
why do you think it was not received super well?
Yeah, I just think it's a downer of a movie. So I think people aren't telling other people to go see it back then.
This is definitely word of mouth era,
and I think it doesn't provide as many thrills or happiness, and it's not a date movie. Like
I think
it hurts it.
Yeah. This is like taking a girl to see Gone Girl. Like, don't do that. That is a big mistake. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I bet there's a reason. I bet there's a reason someone could point to.
Yeah.
But I don't know because it's got all the makings. But you're right. It's just too dark. They made a very downer movie that does not end happy, and so people aren't going to be telling other people go see this now.
Yeah.
At the moment we're recording this podcast, I don't think it's streaming free anywhere or like part of a subscription service.
Yeah.
You would need to rent it, physical media, or like I think Amazon has it.
Check it out at your local Videodrome or rent it on Amazon.
Yep. Support Videodrome.
So
yes,
anyway,
right. Wrapping up.
In a Lonely Place, great movie. It gets the insert podcast title here recommendation. So check it out.
Yeah. I have been Tanner. Logan has been kind enough to invite me on this podcast.
Yep.
He has already told me that we will not be doing Pokemon the first movie, which is another one on my list.
But I said we might do Space Jam. So.
You did say Space Jam. That's a good note to end on. That's the note to end this on.